So when you cannot go on the vacation that you would like to go on, I recommend painting your fingernails the color of the Caribbean Ocean and dousing yourself in bronzer and highlighter. Trust me, it will make you feel better. Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another full month of Your Ideas video. Today's idea is a fun one. This one came from Jolene. A couple of weeks ago she left me a suggestion to do a makeup look for an imaginary spring break or vacation. Love this idea. Just yesterday my husband and I were both commenting on the fact that we both feel like we need a vacation, and I'm pretty sure that every one of you probably feels the exact same way right now, but I also recognize that it might be a while before any of us are able to go on vacation. So if we can't go on vacation, the next best thing is to pretend like we're going on vacation. So today we're doing a makeup look that's kind of inspired by just vacation vibes and kind of the makeup look I typically think of when I think of vacation makeup. These are a lot of the products that I would travel with. We're going to be putting them on today, and as kind of a fun bonus I have a little travel related Q&A kind of game that we're going to be playing as well. So I hope that you guys are excited about this one. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Any of you that are new to my channel, I hope that you'll consider subscribing. Of course, if any of you enjoy this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And with that said, let's get into the makeup. So since we're going to be doing sort of a Q&A during this video, I'm not going to be talking a lot about the makeup that I'm putting on or what I'm really doing, but I will list everything that I'm using down below, and I quickly want to walk you guys through some of the things I have selected. So first off, for primer is the Spotlight Primer by Physicians Formula. This is one of my glowiest primers, and I really want to look nice and luminous and glowy for my fake vacation. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry. For my foundation, I picked out the Misha BB Cream. For concealer, we're going to be going in with the It Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye. Do you guys know this stuff is supposed to be waterproof? I wish I could test out those claims, but there's nowhere to swim right now. For bronzer, this look is going to be very bronzer focused. So I have a couple different bronzers we'll be using. First off, the Milk Makeup Bronzer Stick, which you guys know I love. The Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, which this is kind of the epitome of vacation, is it not? I mean, smells like vacation. For my cheek color, I'm going to be using the Nude Sticks Sunkissed. For my highlighter, I'll be going in with the Persona Cali Glow Zuma highlighter. For the eye look today, we'll be using the Urban Decay Born to Run palette. I mean, obviously because of the packaging, but also just the colors inside. Has everything that you would ever need if you were traveling. And lastly, for the lips, I'll be using this little duo from ColourPop and the NYX lip liner in the color beige. So as a fun way to kind of talk about vacations as we're putting this makeup on today, I found this little list online on this website, which I will link down below, and it was called 101 Fun and Random Road Trip Questions to Uncover Your Friends' Secrets. I picked a couple of these questions out, and I thought we could go over them while we put the makeup on today. Of course, if you guys have any fun answers to these questions, let me know down below. I would love to get to know you guys a little bit better as well. So the questions that I picked out in here are all kind of random. I just randomly selected a couple of questions I thought would be fun to talk about. And I picked ones that specifically touched on traveling or had sort of a travel theme to them. And the first question is, what is the most beautiful place that you have ever been? This one was tough. I'm not the most well-traveled. I haven't been a lot of exotic places. Probably the most exotic places I have been to are Cancun, Mexico and Barbados, which were both very beautiful. I mean, I love the Caribbean. I love the ocean, but probably my favorite, most beautiful place would have to be the Pacific Northwest, specifically like Oregon, the Oregon coast. So my husband and I actually traveled on our honeymoon back in 2001. Yeah, that long ago. We took a trip up the Oregon coast, a road trip for our honeymoon, which was super fun. And actually last year we kind of did that road trip with our kids as a family vacation, which ended up being so much fun. We stayed in the Redwood National Forest, which was absolutely beautiful. We of course visited the Oregon coast. I just think Northern California and the Oregon coast is beautiful. I've lived on the East Coast, and I have to say for swimming purposes and recreating, the East Coast is better and it's still beautiful. But as far as just like scenic beauty, there's just something about the West Coast ocean that is absolutely stunning. So I think I would put that at probably the most beautiful place that I've ever traveled to. And as far as our trip last year up the Oregon coast, we stayed with my sister. She lives in Elkton, which is just an hour in from, I think, Reedsport, which is about halfway up the Oregon coastline. And we ended up camping in the Umpqua National Forest at this beautiful, beautiful place right on the river. I mean, literally our campsite was like backed by a river. It was actually a little bit terrifying because I was so worried about Charlie, because there was just a trail that led right down to this massive river below us. But, you know, we did a good job of keeping an eye on her. She lived. But it was so, so pretty. There was this spot where you could cliff jump right behind our camp spot, and my kids loved it. That had to have been one of the prettiest places I've ever been. And I was super surprised by it, because it's one of those things where, like, there's places that you go that you expect are going to be beautiful, but it's when you find a like hidden gem beautiful place that it makes it like extra special for some reason. But after mentioning that, I have to say I do live in Utah, and Utah, there's a lot of really beautiful places in Utah for sure, particularly southern Utah. Zion's Arches National Park, there's some really beautiful national parks down there. Okay, next question. Where is the furthest place that you've traveled by car? So this one technically would have to be Virginia. When we moved out to Virginia in 2005, we had to drive all the way across the country from Utah to Virginia, which was a long ways away. I want to say it was like 3,000 miles. But I'm not going to count that one because that wasn't for vacation purposes, that was for moving. So the next furthest one would have to be Kansas City, Missouri. So we did a road trip out to Kansas City the year that Charlie was born. So she is now 3, so this was just a couple years ago. And I'm talking literally 2 months after she was born. We went on this road trip. We had a family reunion in Florida, and then my son also had a baseball tournament in Omaha, Nebraska around the same time. So we tried to merge these 2 trips into one, and we did that by driving to Kansas City. My husband's sister lives there, so we drove there. We stayed with her for a while. We took in a Royals game. Kansas City is a beautiful, beautiful city, by the way. And then from there we flew to a family reunion in Florida. So we flew into Tampa Bay. We did the beach. We actually went to the beach on the bay side one day and then on the ocean the next day, because the reunion was actually in Orlando. We took in a Devil Rays game when we got there, which was so awesome. I had so much fun at that stadium. If you can't tell by now, we're big baseball fans, and kind of one of our goals is to like catch all the Major League Baseball stadiums in the United States. So anyways, my answer to that question, Kansas City. 1,137 miles. That was a long road trip, but surprisingly, and this is something that I found because we happen to do a lot of road trips because I have a bigger family, our time and our vacation budget is a little bit smaller, so we do a lot of road trips for our family vacations, and I find that they sometimes end up being the funnest because, number one, I think your expectations are pretty low when it comes to a road trip because you assume that things might not go so well, especially when you're traveling with a toddler or a baby, but we've had really good success so far at traveling. I'm usually really prepared for road trips, and I also think there's something about discovering places that you probably would not have otherwise seen that is extra special. And some of those memories from just like pulling off the side of the road at like a city park in a small town, playing catch or having a picnic or playing on the playground, those are some of the funnest memories that we have from our road trips, particularly that Kansas City road trip. That was a really, really fun one. And that leads to the next question. Did you go camping in your childhood and where? Yes, I went camping in my childhood. We did a lot of camping. That was kind of my family's form of family vacation. My dad was really into fly fishing, so we would do a lot of trips to really cool places that he really wanted to fly fish, and as a family we would just go to these really awesome places and we camped most of the time. So yeah, we did a lot of camping. I remember going to Yellowstone National Park a lot. We went to different places in Idaho a lot. We went all throughout Utah. Yeah, I have a lot of good memories of camping. And I just realized I forgot to put concealer on before I did my bronzer. Oh, Mandy, I told you guys I couldn't talk and do makeup at the same time. Let's move on to the next question. What is the weirdest place you have ever slept? This I thought was a really funny question, and I have a really fun and funny answer for it, actually. So I'd have to say probably the weirdest place I've ever slept is not because of the place itself, but because of the situation. So my husband and I, as I mentioned, we drove up the Oregon coast for our honeymoon. One of the nights we were planning to camp at this really cool campground near the beach, but it happened to be raining that night. So we ended up having to find like a last minute hotel in this kind of smaller town on the Oregon coast. I can't even remember the name of the town for certain. I want to say it was near like Florence. It might have been in Florence, but there was this little place that we found. We went in and asked them if they had any rooms available, and they had one room left. They had this like decorative lighthouse that's part of their motel, but it's actually a room and it has a set of bunk beds inside of it. So we ended up taking the room and sleeping in bunk beds on our honeymoon, which I think is such a funny story. We actually loved it. We thought it was hilarious. Probably the next weirdest place would be in an airport in the middle of the night, which is not really that weird. Who hasn't done that, right? but that's one that has some funny memories attached to it. So that's my answer for that one. And if this makeup look doesn't turn out, I'm kind of mindlessly putting my makeup on right now, so this is probably not going to be my best work. Just be aware of that. Okay, next question. Which of your scars has the best story? So I have this scar. I don't know if you can really see it anymore. It was a lot worse when I was younger, but it goes across my forehead, kind of right here in the middle of my forehead. It's like right here. Again, I don't know that you can really see it that much anymore, but it was bad enough that when I was younger, I couldn't part my hair in the middle because I had this massive line across my part, so I'd always part my hair like slightly off to the side, and that's kind of where my natural part has developed now. It's kind of off-centered a little bit. Not that that's a big deal, but the reason for that scar is when we were on one of our family road trips, I think we might have been up in Kalispell, Montana. It was one of the years that we did the road trip where we went up through Montana and we did the Glacier National Park road trip. That was one of our longer family road trips, but we were staying in this little cabin and we were standing out in the front of this cabin, and my brother, who I was standing too close to, hit a baseball and the bat came around and got me right in the head, and man, it did a number. I was bleeding pretty severely. Ended up having a major gash and scar there. Fortunately, I didn't have to go to the hospital. They must have got the bleeding under control. I don't remember if I passed out or not, but yeah, that would be my most memorable scar. Now moving on to highlighter. I'm going to be pretty generous with the highlight because if I am in the mood to be on vacation, highlight is where it is at. So I'm going to make myself look like the Golden Tin Man today, just because I feel like it, not because it looks good. So those are all the travel questions I wrote down, but I have a couple of other bonus fun questions just for the fun of it that aren't really travel related, but we're going to go over them anyways because I haven't even gotten into my eyes yet. Might be another long video, Mandy. Actually, I'm going to pause and do my eyebrows, and then we will get into the eyes and do a couple more questions. Alright, so the next couple questions that I have are not actually really travel related. They were on this list, but they weren't specifically travel related. They're more kind of getting to know you kind of questions. So the next question is, what is your biggest kitchen fail? And I have a lot of kitchen fails. I mean, I'm actually a pretty good cook. I think I've become a pretty good cook over the last many years that I've been cooking, but I have my share of kitchen fails. And one that I would say is probably the funniest that I'm going to share, that's not necessarily kitchen related, but it's food related, so I'm going to share it anyways. But several years ago, we were living in this little condominium. It's when we were saving up to build our house, but we had this tiny little crawl space sort of basement, and it had a cement slab down there, so it was basically like a cold storage area. And in the wintertime, I would store eggs down there because our fridge was too small to hold more than a carton of eggs, and we would go through a lot of eggs. So I'd buy a couple of cartons of eggs and store the extra ones down there in the wintertime. So one spring, probably around May, I started noticing this really strange smell, and I know you guys already know where this is going. I could smell something terrible coming from the crawl space. I thought it was probably a dead animal. It just had this dead animal sort of smell to it. And I went down there, I investigated, I tried to see if I could find some sort of like dead mouse or something that was maybe decaying. But despite my efforts, I could not find a dead animal down there. But one day it just got to be too much. So I went down there and really started digging through stuff, and I lifted up. We had this bin that had our winter clothing on it that was kind of like haphazardly thrown on there, and I lifted up one of the winter coats and noticed a little grocery bag on the floor next to the winter coat bin, and inside that grocery bag I could see was a carton of eggs, probably from January, and I knew immediately what the smell was coming from. So I quickly grabbed an extra garbage bag, threw it in there, hauled it out to the garbage can outside. It was seriously the grossest thing I think I've ever smelled that close. It was pretty disgusting. But I'm mentioning it today because those eggs should have been stored in the kitchen, and that is my biggest kitchen fail. Okay, so I'm really trying to blow this color out because I want it like really bronzy. We're gonna do like the ultimate bronzy eye today. Or at least try. Still sticking with this same color. Oh, I noticed one more travel question on here. What was my funnest road trip? I think I've talked about this one before, and I'd have to say our funnest road trip has got to be the year that we had Six Flags passes. And this kind of is the funnest series of road trips because what ended up happening is we had planned a family vacation for the fall in September to go out to California and do like a big California trip. So we're going to stay at the beach, we're going to go to San Diego, catch a Padres game, and then go up the coast, spend some time on the beach, camp on the beach, then go to a Dodgers game, and along with that, go to Six Flags. So we found out that it was actually cheaper for us to buy season passes than to buy 2-day passes of Six Flags tickets for everyone in the family. So we ended up buying season passes, and we got upgraded to season passes for the next year for free. So we went to Six Flags in the fall. It was such a blast, but it was super, super busy. So we were determined to find a less busy time the following spring to go back. And we ended up going back like 3 weekends that spring, but it was so much fun. Those weekend Six Flags road trips were just some of the best memories that me and my kids still have to this day. We just loved it. My boys especially were just really into roller coasters at the time. They like knew all the roller coaster speeds and which ones were record breaking. And Six Flags Magic Mountain had quite a few record breaking roller coasters at the time. And it's so fun. I loved it so much. The kids had so much fun. And there's something about watching your kids be in heaven that is just, as a parent, like the best thing ever. Especially when every single one of them are enjoying it. That's kind of rare to come by too. There are most vacations that we go on, not everyone's loving it to the same level, if you know what I mean. But Six Flags is something that every single one of us really, really loved. And someday when Charlie gets older, maybe it will be Disneyland. But until she's older and the boys are gone, I don't know that my boys will ever pick Disney over Six Flags, just because they are all about the size of the roller coasters. So I really want to kind of build this up and smoke this out, and then we're going to go in with the shimmer on top of this. Next question, non-travel related. What was your favorite toy from the 90s? This is a fun question. I actually have I had an immediate answer for this question. I have to say, do any of you guys remember the game Girl Talk? Oh boy do I. Me and my sisters loved that game. Oh man, the prank calls that we made from Girl Talk. And maybe a close runner-up would have to be Domino Rally. Do you guys remember Domino Rally? Or Mousetrap? And I know these aren't necessarily toys, they're games, but we were just really into our games more than anything. So for the lid, I can't decide between Ignite and Smog. I'm kind of thinking Smog. Let's go like true cooler tone bronze today. So I'm going to do this just on the center of the lid. Then we'll go in with something a little bit lighter on the inner half. I did wash my brushes, by the way, not all of them, but I washed my most used brushes yesterday, which I was so proud of myself for. Now we're going to go into Stranded. Which is kind of the champagne peachy gold color. I love this color. And we will overlap. So while we finish up here, one more question. And it is favorite photos that you have ever taken. You guys might know, I know I've talked about this a few times before, but if you don't know, I spent many years as a professional portrait photographer. So most of my favorite pictures that I've ever taken are pictures of my kids, and mostly my boys, because sadly, I do not take nearly the amount of pictures now that I have a girl, which I think is so sad. Just because I'm busy. She's my 4th kid, and I don't have the time to take the pictures of her as I did with my other boys. So we do a lot of just like selfie camera pictures and videos for her. I don't do a lot of like staged professional photo shoots with her. Plus I just don't do photography like I used to do. It will always be a love for me, but it's kind of morphed into like using those skills and transferring them over to YouTube is kind of what I've been doing lately. But I'll always have a special place in my heart for photography, and I have to say my favorite pictures I've ever taken are not usually travel related. They're all of my kids, especially the ones where I really tried to take a good picture of my kids. So I'll put a couple here that I've taken. Most of these are really, really old, probably 10 years or more old, but I'll put some of my favorites here as well as who they were so that you guys can see them, because I have quite the collection of some really adorable pictures of my kids, which I will always be grateful for. But if I happen to find a good like travel picture that I've taken for you guys, I'll put it here. But I have to say, you guys, portrait photography and travel photography are not the same thing. There's a different skill set, I think, that comes for like landscape and travel photography. And not just that, but probably different equipment. You probably utilize different lenses and different settings as far as the camera settings that you use and that type of thing. And it's just not something I ever really trained myself to do. I kind of have an interest in possibly, maybe in the future, learning how to do that better. But for now, most of my favorite pictures are of my kids. So now I'm just going to add a little bit of my Wet n Wild liner to my upper waterline. Then I'll add a couple of coats of mascara, and then I'll be right back with you guys to finish off with the lips. Alright guys, so here are the finished eyes, very bronzy, vacation appropriate. Now moving into the lips, I'm just going to take a little bit of my NYX lip liner in the color beige. Then I'm going to take a little bit of What's Your Sign from ColourPop, and then finish off with a little bit of Moonchild gloss also from ColourPop. And one last thing I want to do, I want to dip back into that Urban Decay palette, and I'm going to take the color Stranded, and on a wet brush, this Repper number 3 brush, it's kind of their pencil brush, and we're going to dip it into the gold color we put on our inner corner, the color Stranded. I want to add just a little bit of this directly under the inner third of the lower lash line. Alright, and last thing, I just want to set it all in place with a little bit of the L'Oreal Dew Mist. Smells like vacation too. Alright you guys, and this is it for today's I Sure Wish I Was on Vacation makeup look. I hope that you guys enjoyed this one. Hopefully you enjoyed some of the commentary in this video. Let me know again if you guys have any fun answers to these questions. I would love to know a little bit about some of your travel memories, but I hope that this was fun for you guys. I hope it wasn't too much of a slap in the face for the fact that we are all stuck at home. But given the situation that we are all in, I think it's fun just to pretend and hope that things will get better and we will all travel again. But that is it for today's video. Thank you all again so much for supporting my channel, for spending some time with me today. Sending you and your families so much love. I hope that you guys are doing well, and I will see all of you very soon in my next video. Bye. I think I might have bought the wrong color in the Gimme Brow. I feel like my eyes are a little bit dark. Yeah, I'll be done in 5 minutes though. Okay. Oh, you're just foam rolling? Do you have your headphones in? Okay. Because I don't like you hearing me talk, because I'm talking about you. Aren't these pictures just like a dagger to the soul?